Welcome to Ask the Expert, a daily series from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. to help small businesses. Ask any questions in the comments or use the hashtag QBATE on Twitter. If you need any more advice, join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. During the live session, we will be running a poll, so please do engage with it and I'll reveal the results at the end. My name is Jackie Fast, and I'm here with you this morning to talk all about setting up your new business. Especially during a time of COVID, it's important to start that business up on a shoestring budget. But quite frankly, I think starting up on a budget is always a good thing to learn. I set up my first business in 2010, right after the financial crisis. So I learned a lot about what you need to be doing, what you should be doing, and what you could probably avoid doing in the future. Now that we're in COVID, everything is so different. So everywhere you go, I mean, you don't go anywhere, you're stuck at home. But setting up a new business while you're stuck at home is very, very different to when you're able to go to networking events, etc. So the questions that you need to be asking yourself and the questions you need to be asking experts like myself are all around where should you be spending your money? Because whether it's $100 or $1,000 or $100,000, it's really important to make sure that that money is spent well. So we're going to be going into everything from do you need an accountant to should you have a website, how to utilize social media. I'll ask any questions that you have. Please make sure to send them live, and we can kind of go into the best ways to set up a business on a shoestring budget. When I set up my business in 2010, I was very broke. Basically, I had just left my full-time job and I set it up with £2,000 and a laptop in my bedroom of a rented flat in London. And I grew it after 6 years to a multi-million pound business. It had offices in Singapore, Oslo, London, and Brazil. And we scaled that really based on the investment that I made, which was very, very small, just £2,000. So it can be done. You don't need to quit your job and, maybe hopefully raise a whole bunch of money and millions of pounds, etc. A lot of business now can really be done online. And that's really the power of the internet, the power of community, the power of social media, and how you utilize those things, especially during a time of COVID, is absolutely important. And so when you set up a business, you need to kind of also have those things in mind, because traditional methods of business setup are no longer, I mean, they're still available, but they're much, much harder to do. And it's really unnecessary. So why would you spend more money than you have to? And again, it's really about spending the money in the right way. So I remember when I first set up my very first business, I knew nothing about business. I was 25 years old at the time and spent a lot of time online looking for tips and tricks. But as I'm sure everybody can attest to, there is so much information. It can be really overwhelming, especially during, I guess, a pandemic. So whether you're furloughed and you're thinking about doing something different, or whether perhaps you've lost your job and looking at alternatives, and maybe this is the opportunity for you to start your dream. And it might be the kickstart that you need. I think I speak to a lot of people who have always dreamed of owning their own business or being an entrepreneur or working for themselves, but yet are too afraid to take the leap. Sometimes, whether it's a financial crisis like myself or a pandemic like we're going through now, you might find yourself in a situation where you don't have an alternative. And although that's really scary, sometimes I think that is a really great blessing in disguise. I know when I set up my business, I felt like I didn't have the information and I didn't have the knowledge and I didn't have the experience to be able to do it. But quite frankly, I think with the support that's available, that is out there now, and again, the fact that we're in an information age and we have access to the internet, you can find customers online. You are able to work with suppliers and clients and employees on a virtual basis, just like this. It means that anybody can kind of do anything in an ambitious way. And kind of on a micro level, it means that setting up a business can literally be an idea in your basement that you've worked on, that you can now communicate to others, and those people can hopefully get on board. So quite frankly, it's a really exciting time, but I think that doing everything on a budget, or at least making sure that the investment that you do have or that you do make goes into the right things, is really, really relevant now, because we are in a pandemic, and who knows when we'll get out, and who knows when things will go back to normal, even if they ever go back to normal. So making sure that you make the right moves is important, and I don't want to freak people out and make sure that and make people think that it's critical, because it's not. Like, I think setting up a business is an opportunity where you can grow and you can learn. And again, the great thing is that you've got access to the internet. So when things don't go well, you can always kind of go and find information. And the other thing is, everybody's so much more agile. So gone are the days in terms of supply and demand when people used to work in factories and manufacturing was key. So to be a business owner, you really had to have a significant amount of investment to produce the product that you would be inevitably selling. Now, even if it is a product, you need considerably less investment. And I mean, a great example of this would be the supply chains and stuff in beauty. So beauty brands as a legacy are wholly bent on like legacy. So I think L'Oreal started in 1909. And now what you've got are small businesses like Kylie Cosmetics, who have kind of grown into billion-pound businesses all through the power of social media, which is interesting because social media is effectively a free platform. So where L'Oreal had to use, footfall, traffic, door knocking, cold calling, shops effectively like Selfridges and John Lewis to sell their products through, you can now buy beauty products direct. So everything has shifted, and that is a really, really exciting time to set up a small business. So I think we're about to start looking at questions now. So please send through your questions. As I'll remind everybody again, we're talking about setting up a small business. So please ask any questions related to that. But quite frankly, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions that you've got about anything in general. But ideally, it would be good to talk about setting up a small business during a time of COVID. So I will kick off the questions. The first question is Caroline from Instagram. Has asked, what is your favorite experience you have had because of your business? Oh, so many experiences. So my first business was a business called Slingshot Sponsorship, where we would find sponsors for big events or ideas or charities. And one of my clients was Sir Richard Branson, and we had an event on Necker Island called the Extreme Tech Challenge. So I got to go to Necker Island, which is fabulous, in the British Virgin Islands for work, which was great. And I mean, the weather's amazing. And I think to be able to say that you can go on Necker and it's work related is pretty cool. That would definitely be my favorite experience in my business. Next question, Jillian from Twitter asks, good morning. How did you know when you had the right idea? I have 2 different business ideas I would like to test, but I don't have time to do both at the same time and not sure which one I should choose. Very good question. I think a lot of people are conflicted with this. The answer, honestly, I didn't think I had a good idea. I had always wanted to run my own business. Even as a kid, I kind of always dreamt of being a business owner. I don't really know why either. My parents are not kind of not entrepreneurs. But I always kind of dreamed of owning my own business. But it was, I feel like everybody talks about the great idea. When you go to business school or even university in general, and even the blogs that you read, they talk about having a great idea. And that really used to petrify me. And I think a lot of the reason I didn't set up a business was because I never felt like I had a good idea. My first business, Slingshot, didn't set up as a business. I never expected it to grow the way that it had. If you read my business plan, you would be shocked. Because I think I was very, very unambitious with it. And I set it up as a consulting gig, really, while I was looking for another job. But I am an incredibly hard worker, and I did have a good idea, and I just worked and worked and worked, and it ended up just kind of blowing up. And I don't want to say that that was happenstance, but, I think a lot goes into like how hard you make a business work. So what I would say is I wouldn't worry so much about the idea. I would think about the execution. So if you've got 2 ideas, which idea do you want to do more than the other? So having an idea is just like a small piece of the puzzle. I think everybody in the world has an idea, and not everybody in the world is a small business owner. What differentiates a business owner from just a regular person is turning that idea into reality. So rather than ask yourself which idea is better, I would say which execution is something that you would enjoy doing. Do you think that the growth of that business would be better for one or the other? And think about the long term. Don't think about the immediate factor. Next question. Donald from Facebook Messenger asks, hi, Jackie. I hired 2 people last year and are about to expand and hire 2 more people. What is your advice on building a dream team? To be honest, I'm not sure at all myself, but I want to find people that I can trust and that can share my values, as my business is my baby. I totally relate to this, Donald. I think it's a really important question. I think most business owners will tell you that it really is the team, because, no one person can do it all. I struggled with this, but I had a fabulous team, and I kind of went back and forth in terms of getting a lot of support from executive HR coaches, and then reverted and just went back to my gut because that never really worked. I think hiring is one of the trickier things to do. And I would probably say, look for people that can fill in the gaps for what skills you don't have. So for instance, I would say I'm a very effective communicator. I'm also a bit of I don't want to say I'm a tyrant, but I like to push people. I like to make people work pretty hard. And actually the opposite to my personality is someone who is probably more of a listener than a talker. And actually I ended up filling people in that could kind of help fill in the gaps that I was lacking. So I'd probably start there. But if you're looking really for a dream team, one of the biggest things that I'm always look back on and I'm so happy for, I hired people that I liked, and I still hang out with them to this day. And it just made work so much better. And when you like the people you work with, you tend to work harder. So I personally would start with looking at skill gaps, but then obviously hire based on personality. Next question, Frederico from Instagram. Who do you look up to in business and why? I get asked this question a lot. I do a whole bunch of different things, from luxury handbags to fintech to ice wine. So I have a lot of different, businesses and business role models that I look up to. But fundamentally, I really like people that are, really big drivers. Jamal Edwards is I'm a really big fan of him. He started off really small. He's huge. Look him up. He's fabulous, super young, but just kind of a driver and like a business doer. So yeah, I'd probably say Jamal Edwards is a good example of somebody I would look up to. Next question, Katie from Twitter. Hi, Jackie. I'm debating investing in myself and my own idea, or investing in someone else's idea. Any advice would be much appreciated. I would never, if it's an either or situation, I would never invest in somebody else's idea if I had an idea myself, because you should always be able to back yourself. And yeah, 100% I would invest in my own idea over somebody else's. Next question, Joanna from Instagram. Hey, do you have any advice on how to be comfortable speaking on stage or pitching ideas in a boardroom? I always get so nervous and can't sleep the night before. Joanna, I feel you. I speak a lot. I probably do about 30 to 50 events a year, live on stage. And I'm sure some of the people here would have seen my antics in The Apprentice in the boardroom, and trust me, that was petrifying. But I think experience is the only thing I can say. I remember my very first speaking gig. I was so nervous. I almost threw up in the bathroom. I could not control myself. And if you see me now, you would probably think I love it. I think a lot of my friends think it's my favorite thing to do, which it is not at all. But I do so much of it, it just becomes, it's part of my job. And I think that you just kind of got to get over your fear. And the other thing is, so if you mess up, so what? It doesn't matter. It's not the end of the world. It's not like you only have one shot at this. But to try to avoid messing up, I would say practice. I noticed that when I did speaking engagements, my nerves would really start in the first 5 minutes. And I used to kind of do it like an actor would. I would memorize the first part of my speech, like word for word, action for action, pause for pause, so that when I got on stage, it just became second nature the first 5 minutes. And that would help me kind of get into the groove and used to being on stage and having the limelight. And then it would help me kind of get into my groove, and I could just kind of kick off with the rest of the presentation. So that's what really worked for me. But I get asked this question a lot, and trust me, I think just more experience, and just don't be afraid, just do it. The more that you do it, the better that you'll get. Next question, Charlie from Facebook. Jackie, from your own experience, do you have any tips on how to keep a balance in life while it's trying to build a company? I feel like I'm always running behind and have minimal time over having a personal life. I really hate to answer this, Charlie, because you're not going to like my answer, but I don't believe that you can really have a work-life balance if you're looking to really grow your business. I think running a business is hard work. I don't think it's very easy. I think growing a successful business is even harder. So I would probably just say, think about what it is that you want to achieve. If you are really wanting to do work-life balance, then you have to sacrifice your business and kind of the results of your business. For me, the way that I did work-life balance is I had no life from the entire time I had my business. So from 2010 to 2016. And quite frankly, my personal life revolved around going out to industry awards, hanging out with clients. I mean, my job was pretty cool. I worked at music festivals, but it still was work. I then sold that business, made a lot of money, and now I have a lot of personal time. So now I have a lot of life, and not a lot of work. So also not a lot of balance. But I think it's pretty tricky if you're trying to both lead a fulfilled life and have a very successful business. I don't believe the two can coexist. Roma from Instagram, what motivates you in business? The thing that motivates me is I always kind of want to do better. So if things can be done better, I will try to find a way to do them. And because there are so many opportunities, I kind of just never sleep. Like, it's never enough for me. And I think even when we were top of our game with the agency, and even now, I mean, at the moment I sit on 3 boards. I run a industry awards event. I'm finalizing my second book, which is out next March, called Rule Breaker. I do events like this kind of when I've got time, and I've got a number of investments, and I still feel like, I would want to do more. So I am very, very curious as a person. And so those are kind of the things that motivate me. And I think that, I mean, I really like what I do. I think if I was doing stuff that I didn't like, I wouldn't be motivated at all. And I would sit on the couch quite a lot of the time. I've been really fortunate to be able to do the things that drive me, that I am passionate about. So, the way that I've been able to do that is that I'm very open and transparent about the things that I like and the things that I don't like, and the types of teams and types of environments that I want to work in. So when you have that opportunity to work in those environments, that in itself is what motivates me. Ishika from Twitter, what's your advice on sponsorships for a small business? I've never used sponsorship for my business, but I'm intrigued after listening to you last time you were on the show. Aw, thanks, Ishika. Any pitfalls to avoid as a newbie? Firstly, if you haven't picked up my book, Pinpoint, I would absolutely recommend that. Not because I'm trying to flog you my book, but because a lot of businesses want to do sponsorship and don't really know how, and go on the internet and can't really find the right information. I specifically wrote Pinpoint with this in mind. So when I sold my business Slingshot, I was looking to get out of the sponsorship industry, and I wanted to kind of summarize all the areas that people go wrong in a book. Pinpoint is that book. I recommend it to everybody. If I hadn't written it, I would recommend it as well. I think it's super cheap if you just buy it on Kindle. Or I mean, if you contact me and beg, I probably send you one as well. But I think my thing is a lot of people try to do sponsorship before they know anything about it, which would be like me trying to do open heart surgery by, just hearing about somebody that had it. It doesn't work like that. Sponsorship is, you need to figure out how to package it effectively. And firstly, I would probably say the question to ask yourself is your small business even sponsorable? So the first part of that is, do you have an audience that brands or someone wants to pay you money to connect with? Because if you don't, then you might not be a sponsorship platform. Next question, Claudia from Instagram. So exciting with your book coming out next year. Thank you, Claudia. Me too. I'm very excited, although I'm just in the middle of finishing it, so it's very stressful. The question is, what advice do you have for leaders of the future? I mean, so much advice, and that's what my book, Rule Breaker, is all about. And as the title suggests, it really is about looking at this new world of business in a different way. Because we are in a completely different world with the internet. I think leadership is very different. And often the leadership that we're seeing now that's kind of pumped through media is uninspiring, to be quite kind. And so I think fundamentally what my book really talks about is that everybody can be a leader and everybody really should be a leader. And that doesn't mean that you need to lead a 500-person business. A leader can be somebody in your community. It can be somebody even in your friend group. It can be a person with a cause. But it really is about finding your passion points and, again, communicating that and inspiring others to kind of move towards one movement. So I have a lot of advice for leaders of the future, but I think fundamentally the world is a very different place than it was even 5 years ago. And now we're more responsible than ever for the way that world is evolving and shaping, even just through these kind of engagements with QuickBooks in terms of this event. You wouldn't normally be able to connect with people like myself, but now that you can, that means everything's different, really. And how you communicate with those people, how you communicate to the people that are following you, has really changed. And so we're able to kind of drive from our passion points rather than kind of drive for a paycheck, fundamentally. But definitely watch out for my book. It comes out in March in the UK. Again, it's called Rule Breaker: Rebellious Leadership in the Future of Work. So definitely check it out or connect with me online, because I will certainly be pushing it or talking about it when it's live. Next question, Julia from Facebook. Hi, Jackie. With a limited budget, would you recommend hiring someone to do my marketing or sales? Yeah, sales. I mean, it depends on your skill set. I am a natural salesperson, if you cannot tell already. So I would always hire some marketing or something different to what I can do. But I mean, I would probably say if you've got a limited budget, I would probably start with trying to do it yourself. The thing is, with a marketing full-time person, you probably don't need it. There are a lot of like marketing campaigns or marketing agencies, or even like people you could pay that are outsourced just to do small projects. I would probably start there. And I do feel like, every business owner needs to do sales, and that person probably, like Julia, you'll know your business better than anybody else. So, I mean, I think you're probably the better salesperson to start. Next question, Nicole from Twitter. Did you ever worry about burning out? Nicole, I burnt out so many times, I cannot even tell you. But I'm less worried about burning out and more worried about, I guess, keeping going. I think the key is to figure out when you're close to burning out. I remember I went to an event and somebody talked about the physiological nature of business owners and stress. And a lot of people can handle a lot of stress, but don't actually notice that they are stressed, which was very much me. And actually what you'll find is that an old injury, so if you broke your arm when you were a kid, or you're prone to ear infections or something, that will flare up. So you could ask that person, do you feel stressed? And they'll say, no, I don't feel stressed, but their elbow kind of hurts for no reason. That was me. So I never ever feel stressed out, but I kind of like fell once during a basketball game, and I get lower pain kind of in my coccyx. And actually, I know when I'm stressed out when that happens. And when that happens, I start booking reflexology treatments and acupuncture. So I think I'm never worried about burning out, but I do think you need to be, conscious of yourself and take care of your health, because that's really fundamentally important. And I mean, know how far you can push yourself. I can push myself pretty far, so I know what I can do. Next question, and this will be our final question. So Elliot, lucky you. Last question. Good morning, Jackie. Do you see yourself setting up a new business in the future? Yes, of course. So, I mean, I set up an ice wine business last year. I am in the middle of setting up an agency, which was due to launch in LA, but COVID's kind of may have changed that. I'm in discussion about setting up a fund with a friend of mine. I'm always looking up to set up a new business in the future. I think based on my last experience, having no information and having no experience in setting up a business and doing relatively well off of it has given me the confidence to feel like I could set up any business, really. So yes, I mean, I envision setting up many, many more businesses in the future. But as I mentioned, I've already set up 2 businesses since selling my last business. And hopefully in 10 years from now, if you ask that question again, Elliot, I will have 50 different business interests. But yeah, I think setting up a business is always a fun thing to do. So we are at the end of our session. Thank you so much for joining us. But we have got the poll, and the poll question that we sent out. We asked you, are you confident you have the right knowledge to set up a new business? Now, this is really interesting, the results. 50% of you said yes, and 50% of you said no. So it's exactly half and half, which is unsurprising, because said you think you have and 0% of you said you think you have the right knowledge. Okay. So 50% of you think you've got the right knowledge. 50% of you don't think you've got the right knowledge. I think personally, I never ever thought I had the right knowledge, but there's so much information out there. I think joining things like these are so important. So in Intuit QuickBooks, they do this every morning. So make sure you join more of these so you can get more information, but try to get as much information as you can, because there is a lot of information out there. Virtual events are great because they allow you to ask the right questions. So we are at the end. If you have any more questions for me specifically, then please let me know, and you can get in touch with me on Instagram or Twitter at JackieFast, or visit my website at www.jackiefast.com. And of course, if you have any questions in general, please make sure to get in touch with the QuickBooks support team. Now, coming up on Ask the Expert tomorrow is a guy called Carl Reeder, a serial entrepreneur, chairman of a business advisory firm, D&T, and author of Boss It, the Startup Coach and the Franchising Handbook. Carl has helped thousands of business owners either start or grow their business by helping them understand that business isn't difficult, which I completely agree with. And as a reminder, if you need any more advice, please join the official Intuit QuickBooks SMB community group on Facebook. Accountants and business experts are on hand 24/7. I've really enjoyed everybody's time. Thank you so much for sending in all your questions. It's also really sweet for those people that kind of joined with me again, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Thanks so much. Have a great day, everyone.